This podcast is supported by Music Theater of Wenatchee, celebrating 64 years of bringing stories to life. From show-stopping musicals to powerful plays, the Music Theater of Wenatchee stage is where stories come alive. Now they are writing the next chapter, and you can help make it happen. Thanks to the McQuaig Matching Funds campaign, every dollar you give is doubled, up to $50,000, towards MTW's Riverside Annex expansion project. To support the next act of community theater in Wenatchee, visit annex.mtow.org and donate today.
Opening night club.
We're not opening a nightclub.
It's the opening night club. We can't wait to watch an opening night show, because on opening night we always go with our opening night club. Opening night club.
Welcome to the Opening Night Club podcast. This is the podcast where we get together weekly to discuss and celebrate local theater in Central Washington. I have with me again local actor, playwright, MC, and my friend Skyler Cuthill. Good morning, Skyler.
Good morning, Kevin.
And we have just finished our third weekend of Oktoberfest.
We were heroes. We got through it.
We did. We mustered through and dealt with a lot of people who were slightly or mostly inebriated.
We were modern Valkyries, defending the dance floor from the, I guess I can't say barbarians. We're the barbarians in this scenario, aren't we?
I think so.
Defending the dance floor from the Romans, who would deprive us of our rightful clay and livestock.
I have no idea where that analogy was going, but okay.
Sometimes they get going under their own energy. They just have to back off. No, we did it. We, our good friend Ernest Palmer had us and Danny Schaefer-Cloak as hosts for this most recent Oktoberfest, and I think we did a pretty good job.
I think it was a lot of fun. We made sure it was a lot of fun. That was our job.
Yes. I got sick, though. I got sick in the second week. I overdid it. I could feel it was my own fault. I could feel it was coming up on me. And then that Friday, I got real big. I was real energetic. I really went for it. And for almost the first time in my life, my body just gave out on me, even though I knew there was a performance coming up. I've always bragged about that. I've always said I've never gotten sick during a performance, during a show or whatever, which is untrue. I have, but I have always been able to soldier through, and I just couldn't. My body was like, nope. We have failed you.
And just to be clear, when you're talking about overdoing it at Oktoberfest, you were not over drinking.
No,
you were using your voice and were very loud and were trying to keep control of people over a mic.
Yeah. No, I actually wasn't drinking at all, which is such a sadness because as hosts, we have a special contract that allows us to drink. But I knew that my body was not in very good shape, so I was like, I can't drink. So I didn't drink for the second or the third week of Oktoberfest. What a sadness. What a shame.
That is something weird I found, that I will be up there for a full day at Oktoberfest, and there's, 5 different places to get beer, and I'll go all day and not have a beer.
Yeah, but this year we had a lot. Our duties were much expanded from previously. We had a lot more to do. So we were genuinely working for like 80-90% of the time.
That's right.
Last year, we had a lot more downtime, so a lot more, let's get a beer, that kind of thing. And this year, we were genuinely very at it.
Yes. We've been trying to make sure that there is no downtime. Really, the main job of the MC is to keep the crowd in it, in between the acts that we've got up on the stage, and to set them up. And then in between, we'll thank the sponsors, of course, and we'll talk a little bit about Oktoberfest. But then we've got to run little games that will keep people entertained as they're sitting there watching. And as the night goes on, they become more and more festive, I'll say. And so we have to make very energetic games to keep them all involved.
Yeah, you want to keep the energy up between sets as the next band, tunes in and gets everything set up. So we have to fill a greater amount or a smaller amount of time based on the professionalism of the band coming in, right? So it was kind of like a dynamic job. But yeah, I got deathly ill last week, but it wasn't to nothing because I did actually lose 7 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, can you believe it?
I think you could write a book on that one, how to lose weight through emceeing.
I went from 205 to 198. I remember on Monday, things were really, really bad, and I was standing there, and I was like, I don't understand it. How is there this much phlegm in me? Like, how is my body moving and producing this much phlegm?
You lost 7 pounds of phlegm.
It was 7 pounds, yeah.
Wow.
My body took 7 pounds of fat or whatever from my stomach and turned it into phlegm and then expelled it. out of my mouth and nose. It's a miracle. Life is a miracle. Life is beautiful.
That was too much information.
This is how it is. Everybody listening to this show has a body. Your bodies have done this exact same process at some point. This is 100% universal. I cannot imagine there's anybody listening to this who has never produced a pound of phlegm. All I want is my pound of phlegm.
I'm taking out my pound of phlegm on them.
Of phlegm.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so you can probably hear in our voices, we're still, both of us are a little froggy, a little hoarse, just because we have been powering through our last weekend of Oktoberfest. And Oktoberfest, for those of you who don't know how it works, it is the first 3 weekends in October, and it's going to be Friday night, starting at like 6 through midnight, and then it runs Saturday, starting at about 11 through midnight. So and we do it for 3 weekends. So there is no Oktoberfest next weekend. At this point, if you're listening to this podcast and did not go, you have missed it.
Yeah.
So you'll have to come next year, and hopefully we will be able to do it again. I hope we get asked back.
Yeah. And I think this podcast is probably mostly Wenatchee people. The Oktoberfest story in Leavenworth is pretty interesting. I talked to some old timers for like some background information. It was founded in the Project Bayern, which was the organization that used to put on Oktoberfest, was founded in 1998 with a lot of like local luminary type families, Bob Kelly and his wife, that kind of thing.
So
Arlene Wagner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, who used to be the choreographer for LST. She was involved.
That's right. So did they have Oktoberfest before 98? They just didn't have it?
No, they didn't even have Oktoberfest in 98. Initially, Project Bayern was just an organization devoted to enhancing the Bavarian theme of the town. So they like spruced stuff up, planted flowers, that kind of thing.
And they did Mayfest too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then in like 2002 or 2003, the old timers disagreed on which year it was. They started doing Oktoberfest.
Okay.
And initially, it was very small, and it was in the old Apple warehouse.
That's
if
right.
anybody remembers that in Leavenworth.
Yeah, well, it's where the parking lot was now.
Yes. It was this huge old cement derelict Apple warehouse, and my dad was a realtor, and he always had a scheme about like how he could sell it and make a lot of money.
Yeah.
It never came to anything, and eventually they did sell it and tear it down. And that's where like the Walk is now and the Starbucks is, right? But we had this huge old derelict Apple warehouse, and it was inside of that and then like in the street outside of it. This is before the fest hall. And so initially it was very small and it was all locals working it, right? And then it took off, it got bigger and bigger. There were more problems in the town as they brought in the tourists, they got them loaded, turned them loose on the town, that kind of thing. But it was still fine because the locals were getting money out of it. You know, the locals were passing their friends beers, that kind of thing. And eventually in like 2013, 2015, there was some big to do, and I wasn't inside. I don't know exactly what happened, but a lot of locals got purged, especially in management positions, right? And there was a huge amount of pushback. There was a lot of rancor in the community, and they actually tried to like de-seat the Project Bayern officers through parliamentary procedure, you know, like voting them out.
Yes.
And if you are an American in 2025, you should know that never works. You cannot take the haves and vote them out as a have-not, right? Joseph Stalin, no class will ever vote to abolish itself. This just does not happen, right? So the Project Bayern muckety muck stayed in charge, even though all the locals really turned on them. It was getting bigger and bigger. It was getting looser and looser. There was a lot of public urination, you know.
Well, there was also a lot of money coming in.
There was a huge amount of money coming in. The locals weren't getting any of it.
No.
And there was a stabbing. And then I realized when I was like thinking about this episode in my head earlier today, I haven't told the story in like 10 years, but a woman once fell asleep in the bush in front of my house.
You're out on icicle.
I know. I'm so far out in the sticks. It's so strange. It was like 2016 or 2017. It was like 2 or 3 a.m. And it was a Saturday night. It was so late, it was early. And I was asleep, and then I woke up real softly. You know, sometimes you like very gradually phase into the real world or whatever from like the dreamscape. And I was gradually phasing in, and I realized, oh, I'm hearing a real person talk. I'm hearing like a real, genuine person. It was a woman, and she was gone to hell. She was totally smashed, just slurring. And the voice was coming from really nearby. You can hear it, you know, like the distance or whatever. And it was coming from really nearby. And I like poked my head out my window. And I couldn't see anybody. I was like, oh my God, she's in the bush directly beneath my window.
She's inside the yard.
She's like 2 feet away from me, you know, through the wall. Because my bed is right against the wall. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? And you know what I did?
You called the cops?
No, I got my mom. I went and I shook my mom awake. I was like, Mom, there's a girl outside my room. And she went, no, there's not. Go to bed, honey. I was like, no, there is. So eventually she got up and we were in the hallway outside of my room. listening to this woman gabble. And my mom went, oh my God, there's a woman right outside. And she was like, what do we do? I was like, I guess I'll go outside. And she said, no, don't go outside. I'm going to call the cops. I said, no, don't call the cops. She's drunk. She's not dangerous or anything. I'm going to go outside and talk to her. And she's like, no, don't go outside. So I put on my clothes very stealthily, like very like sneaking.
You didn't want to call the cops because you were afraid that she'd get in trouble.
Well, I don't. She clearly wasn't dangerous. This woman, my friends, this was not.
She couldn't find the people she came with because she'd walked miles away from Leavenworth at that point.
There are shuttles, and one of the shuttles gets off and picks up at the sleeping lady.
Oh, I
So
gotcha.
she had clearly been on the shuttle or been walking or some damn thing, as you said, and she had wound up in the bush outside of my window.
Wow.
And I got dressed very stealthily, and I went outside, and by the time I got out there, she was gone. I had my little flashlight, and I poked all over the place, and there was nobody there. But yeah, that was the detritus of Oktoberfest.
Taken from another point of view, that might just be a ghost story that you've just told us.
But yeah, so that's the kind of thing that was going on.
Yes.
During the old Project Bayern Oktoberfest.
Yes.
Right. It was very, very loose. It was very like frat party kind of street festival. A lot of like men dressed as Spider-Man. A lot of, the Mean Girls stage adaptation. Have you seen that?
I haven't. I'd like to see it, but
It's not very good. The best song is the dumb one sings a song about sexy Halloween costumes.
Okay.
It's really funny. It's like the only really good song in the show, but it's a great song. She talks about being a sexy doctor or a sexy mouse or a sexy angel or whatever. That's all the men were dressed up as like comic book characters and like fling stuff at each other, and the women would all dress up in the sexy dirndls. It was not a classy scene.
Well, I remember going to it in that period of time, and yeah, it was very much a big frat party. We would get college kids showing up from a long ways away, and we still get some of that, but that was mostly who it was.
Yeah.
And I know when I was there, I was much younger, and I do remember people getting violently sick in the middle of the parking lot.
Yeah.
And there was somebody I was with got 86'd, and that was happening a lot where people were getting 86'd out of Oktoberfest back in the day.
Yeah, they had a ton of security. They still have quite a bit of security, but it's so much more low key now. But no, I worked 3 years for the Steve Lord Project Bayern Oktoberfest back in the day because I was dating a woman whose family was very much into it, right? And 1 year I was a busser, and 2 years I was on grounds crew. And one of those 2 years I was on grounds crew, my job was vomit crew. That's all we did. We had a little cart with the sawdust and the kitty litter and whatnot. That's all we did. And I want you to imagine the amount of vomiting going on that you could keep 2 men fully employed, for 3 weekends. That's all we did was clean up puke.
Wow. Did it pay you extra for that one?
No. And this is back in like 2014. So minimum wage was like $12. So for the younger people, I need you to understand how bad things used to be. Things are bad now too. I dig it. But back then, the 2008 to like 2012, things were really grim.
Yeah. No, I do remember that. And that was part of the reason that the locals were starting to get a little fed up with it, because it spread out from the Oktoberfest grounds into the community.
Yeah.
And so you did have people like at your house. You had people falling asleep in people's front yards. And there was also a problem where Project Bayern, their focus was on getting people into Oktoberfest. That was their whole goal. And so we had all of Front Street and the rest of Leavenworth where people weren't eating there. They were going into Oktoberfest, and then they would do everything there.
Well, they wouldn't do any of the local beers.
No.
They were very insistent that it was only German beers. And of course, that is, there's an argument to be made for that is more authentic, but we have so many local breweries and whatnot. And so a lot of the merchants didn't care for that. But yeah, Project Bayern was always very insistent that they did have very tight security inside of the site, and they did. So then they would say, what happens with the tourists afterwards is between them and God, which is legally true, but come on, second order effects type stuff. If you're inviting them there and then getting them smashed and then just going, oh, now they're going to have fun. Who knows? I don't. Come on. Anyway, though, so things were getting pretty loose. And then so that was under Mayor Sherry Fairbar and previous mayors as well. And then Carl Floria, when he was elected in 2020, who is our current mayor, a lot of his platform was that he was gonna kick around Project Bayern. He was gonna tell them what's what, and he did. He said, "Project Bayern, you will not get your festival permit again unless you seriously reform." They said, "We're not going to do it," and so he denied them the permit. And so overnight, it turned into a Chamber of Commerce operation.
Well, there was a slight period of time where they had somebody else that had signed up to do it who canceled at the last minute.
Yes, there was a Seattle events
Yeah.
corporation that was initially signed on, but then got spooked by what was happening and backed out. And then this is the weirdest twist of it all. Then Project Bayern started doing Oktoberfest in Wenatchee, and in the meantime had copyrighted the phrase Leavenworth Oktoberfest. And the city or the chamber, somebody sued them and said, this is obviously ridiculous. And the judge actually sided with Project Bayern and said, nope, it's fully legal. You can do that. So Project Bayern for 2 years did Leavenworth Oktoberfest in Wenatchee, which is the goofiest thing. I've actually heard from people who went that it was actually apparently very well organized and well run.
Yes.
It just, nobody came.
There was no one there.
Yeah.
It looked great.
Yeah. But I mean, the draw of these kinds of peasant drinking festivals that you get to do it and then you can stagger home.
Yes.
That's the whole idea. That's what the idea should be anyway. It just doesn't work. The Town Toyota Center is nice, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
There's not a ton of houses and hotels nearby. Actually, now there's a decent amount of development.
Yeah,
nearby,
they're building
actually.
up hotels around that area.
But at the time, not so much. Right. So so it didn't work out. So the Chamber of Commerce has run it ever since then, and they do a good job. It's a lot. They limit the number of tickets that are sold,
and it's a lot friendlier. They're focusing.
Yeah.
They've got a kid area with a merry-go-round and a Ferris wheel, and so they've really tried to keep it so it's not a frat house drunk fest.
Yeah, there's a lot more local buy-in. There's very little tomfoolery going on. Back in the day when I was working it, that was a very regular sight that you would see the cops taking down people, literally tackling people in front of you. The cops just stand around now. And actually, they help us in our job as hosts to clear the dance floor.
Yeah.
That's as rowdy as it gets as the people want to stay on the dance floor
That's
later
right.
on at night, which is great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, and one thing they're also doing now is because it is the Chamber of Commerce running it, which is made up of the businesses in town, that they are working really closely with the businesses on Front Street to make sure that they're not competing fully with everybody. So you see all of the restaurants between the gazebo and the fest hall, all of those restaurants are full. They've all got seating out on the sidewalks, and they're full of people having dinner and having a good time outside of the official area of Oktoberfest.
Yeah, and limiting the number of tickets sold is part of that, I think. Because people are showing up assuming they can get tickets, and then oftentimes they're actually turned away at the gate. And so, surprise, now they're spending their money at this bar or this bar or this bar.
Yes.
So I think they've hit an excellent balance. I really do think it's a very good organization, a very good event.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Manuela Horn about it, about the crowd control there.
The Queen of Oktoberfest.
I was talking to the Queen of Oktoberfest, and she said one of the ways to keep it from getting rowdy is to make sure there's kids there. For whatever reason, if there are kids in the audience, people don't get stupid drunk, or at least they don't do the stupid things that they would do if there's no kids around. Like the kids are a reminder that you're a human being and don't act like an idiot.
Well, it's true. If you're out late at night or whatever and you see a group approaching, if there's a kid in there, you're probably not going to feel threatened, right?
Yes.
If there's no kids, if it's all young men, you're going to go, ooh. But if, it's a mixed group, you go, oh, no, these guys are okay, right? So, yeah.
It's kind of weird because I've noticed that the crowd, as we go week by week, gets more and more...
energetic.
And we're going to say energetic. And we get more and more people on the dance floor that won't cooperate. And I don't know, it's not like they're talking to each other between weekends. I'm not sure why that happens.
This is my 5th year at Oktoberfest, and it's just a universally recognized thing. I don't know why it happens, but it does. The first weekend is always the slowest. Fridays are always slower than Saturdays. It does seem to ramp up. And again, there's no good material reason for that. It makes sense that things would ramp up over the course of an individual day. Obviously things are not as rowdy at 12 o'clock as they are at 10 o'clock, right? Yeah. But it does seem to hold. It's very consistent.
Okay, the next thing we want to talk about is the thing we've been talking about for weeks, and the thing we are the most excited about was we were able to attend opening night of the marvelous Wonderettes at the Riverside Playhouse. Music Theater of Wenatchee was putting this on. It is a new show to the Wenatchee Valley, and I don't know how many people have actually seen it before.
We finally did it. The opening night club went to an opening night.
That's right.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
But we're getting back into the season now. Things are happening again.
Things are going to be popping for the opening night club. go ahead and show up at the opening nightclub. Say hi to Skyler and me. And we had several opening nightclub members at opening nightclub for Marvelous Wonderettes, and it was a great show.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was, for those of you not familiar with it, the Marvelous Wonderettes basically set up in Act 1. We've got a girl group in 1958?
58.
1950.
Class of 58.
It's a class
Chipmunks.
of 58. That's right. It is the Chipmunks. It's at a high school prom, and the class of 58, and we've got a girl group who are the Marvelous Wonderettes, and they're performing, and most of this is singing. It is a lot of music.
Yeah. There's grooving, but not really like real dance numbers.
Well, it's girl group dance numbers. It's all synchronized and swaying and hands and steps and that kind of stuff. Very, I don't know if it's Motown-y, but
Well, the second act is Motown-y.
yeah. So it is a jukebox musical because these are all songs that you've heard before, not by any particular artist, but they're all of a certain genre. And so what you're going to hear in the first act are songs that you would hear on the radio in 1958 that are sung by a girl group.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come back in the second act. It is the 10-year reunion. We catch up on their lives, where they've been, who they're dating or married, and then they sing songs that would have been sung in 1968. So we've got 2 decades of jukebox songs that you're going to hear in the Marvelous Wonderettes.
Yeah, pop hits. There were a couple of ballads, but mostly it's pretty poppy.
It's pretty poppy. And we have 4 singers. They switch around who's singing lead. They switch around the parts. And honestly, Skyler, it felt exhausting to me. As a vocalist, I was exhausted.
So I talked to Rachel, because Rachel's in the show.
Yeah.
She's in every show. God bless her. Anyway, Rachel told me that normally in this kind of arrangement, this 4-part arrangement, each of you would have a separate line, and you would stick to that line for the entire show. And she told me that they are constantly bopping around between lines because it's always changing who is singing lead.
Yeah.
So that is like a nightmare as a vocalist, right? That not only are there like 30 songs in the show and all 4 women sing in all of the songs, but they're all constantly changing parts as well. Oh my gosh. Ladies, I salute you.
Yeah.
That is an extraordinarily difficult task.
It's a very difficult show just because of the singing. There's 2 different types of shows, and I've talked about it. I don't know if I've talked to you about it. But there are the medicine shows and the candy shows. So there are some shows that I will go see or I'll be a part of because they're good theater. They're good for you. And I would put Shakespeare and maybe even Sondheim. I'm not the biggest Sondheim fanboy.
Well, there's real meat on those bones. They're substantial.
They're substantial.
They want you to engage with them.
Yes. And there's a lot of shows that are hard-hitting. There are modern shows that are medicine shows like Fun Home or Next to Normal or Come From Away, where they're very difficult to get through because there's an emotional impact and there are things that are good theater, but not necessarily fun and happy.
Last 5 Years or How I Learned to Drive.
Yes.
These are like nightmare shows.
Yes.
They're real. They're expressing something real, and I respect them, but often I do not want to watch them.
And on the other side, I'm going to have the candy shows, the shows that are just fun. And you don't have to think a lot in them, and you'll get through. And, of course, there's going to be a little conflict, but not enough that anybody's going to worry too much about it. So I would put things like Mamma Mia or Sound of Music in there.
Addams Family.
Addams Family is a great one.
At no point in any of these shows are you genuinely concerned about anybody's well-being. You're like, yep.
Seussical. It's another one.
Yeah. Things are going to be great.
Yes.
Everything's going to be fine.
Nearly every jukebox musical is a candy show.
Yeah.
We went and saw Anne Juliet. That was a candy show. You're not worried about the characters in any way.
No.
And so in this one, this is just the frothiest cotton candy ever. Marvelous Wonderettes is just a fun show. These are all songs that people are familiar with. and there's tension among the characters, but not so much that you're worried about something really bad happening.
It's pretty insubstantial, which is the kind of show I like. I like stuff that's pleasant.
I do too.
And it's very pleasant. It's a pleasant show.
It's very, very easy to watch. It's enjoyable. There was a lot of laughter, and people were grinning ear to ear at intermission.
Girls all got to wear fun dresses, and they all got to wear fun wigs. Mm-hmm. So, big points. They got to wear different dresses and different wigs, because of the time skip.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I did mention that everybody will know the song, and these are songs, again, from the 50s and 60s. I was familiar with nearly all of them very well. But Skyler, were you familiar with these songs?
So I realized while watching the show that when I was promoting the show, just like in person to people, that I kept selling it as like Andrews Sisters type stuff. And then actually watching the show, I was like, oh, the Andrews Sisters predate this show by like 10 years. They're like 40s. None of this is Andrews Sisters type stuff. That was just like the closest historical reference point I had for that kind of thing. I did not recognize any of the music except for the music that was used in the film Back to the Future. If it was in Back to the Future, I recognized it because we've all watched that movie like a dozen times, right? But other than that, no. So I was hearing a lot of that music for the first time.
Okay.
And it's funny, Kevin, you're not that much older than me. You were not in the Great Depression.
I'm definitely Gen X, and you're definitely millennial.
Yeah, but Gen X didn't grow up listening to Mr. Sandman.
Yes, we did.
Were you? Really? You were hanging out at the malt shop in your teeny boppers?
Okay, if you look at Back to the Future, that was like my era. That was my high school era.
But that was for your parents.
No, see, at the time, that was Back to the Future. It was 30 years back. And I think traditionally 30 years back is going to be your classic music. So when I was growing up, there was like the AM station that was playing doo-wop.
Really?
Yes, they still had that. And there was a couple, and I was younger, but there you could find on the radio like Tommy Dorsey.
Okay.
Right? It was possible. And of course, that's all aged out. And now classic rock today is 80s.
Even Zeppelin.
Well,
the 70s, yeah.
It is. But
the Doors.
If you go and you listen, if you talk to my kids who are Gen Z, they are going to say that 80s music is classic rock. So if they're playing 80s metal hair bands,
Depeche Mode.
It could be Depeche Mode. That would be class. I don't know if anybody would call them Depeche Mode rock.
You wouldn't call them rock, but
no.
When I think 80s music, I think Depeche Mode. I think like British New Wave, that kind of thing.
I think there's a lot of like Bon Jovi and Def Leppard that is now classic rock. Yeah.
Okay. No. I just assumed in terms of like the pop culture history of America that once like the Doors showed up, once Elvis showed up, that kind of stuff, that classic rock kind of absorbed everything else. Yeah. And no other music was played unless it was like a country station.
Oh.
Or like a metal station specifically. That classic rock became like the generic music. It is like quote normal unquote music. Really, but when you were growing up, it was that kind of like dun 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 type of stuff.
Yeah, no,
really?
You could hear that. You could hear that on the radio.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we are listening to in Marvelous Wonderettes, that was stuff I remember from the radio.
Okay, Mr. Radio, they used to call him.
Yeah.
Okay. I genuinely did not know that. I just assumed because to me, growing up, everything was classic rock unless it was specifically of some other kind of genre. Yes. Classic rock was like the meat and potatoes of music.
Yeah. No, I remember there was a time when classic rock wasn't classic rock. It was rock and roll.
I remember. Well, there used to be a B on the quarter. Give me 2 quarters for a dime, you'd say. No. Okay, that wasn't even the correct math.
I'm dating myself, but So I think that part of the music in the show might be generational. It's all very enjoyable. It is easy to understand. I think the one thing that might be a little jarring for people, let's say Gen Z, if they come to see this show, is that there were quite a few 50s songs that listening to them with today's sensibilities would be extremely creepy.
It is funny how much of it is about like men cheating on women and the women forgiving them. This is I've never cheated on a woman personally, but I've been around and I've been in a lot of like scenarios or whatever, and this has never happened once to my knowledge.
Well, and there was there was a lot of how my boyfriend is cheating on me, how he's horrible, and this isn't country music, this is rock and roll.
Yeah.
But there was also songs about how I'm in love with my teacher. Teacher's pet came from this era.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, you're too old for me, please,
Well, that is still happening, maybe more so than ever. It's just not being romanticized.
No, and that was the weird thing, is that it is romanticized on Top 40 radio that I could be teacher's pet.
It had a different cultural place or whatever.
Yes.
But yeah, if you open the newspaper, this is still happening every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, you didn't have like pop music about it.
No, I don't think that you can have, after the Me Too movement, you can't be celebrating that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it didn't suddenly stop in 2016 or whatever.
No.
Right. It's been out of vogue for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what's the Sting song from the 80s?
Oh, don't stand too close to me.
But that's like a distressed song. That's not like, this is great. There's a girl that likes me. It's like, this is going to ruin my life, lady.
Yeah.
So different attitude.
No, it changed. It changed over time. Yeah. But one of the things it does do, including it in this show, is it makes for comedy. It can be a lot of fun to have people be very uncomfortable on stage.
And we actually commented on this during the show that all of the performers are adult women. It'd be different if it was like a 16-year-old singing this, but these are all moms. It's fine.
Yes.
It's fine, folks.
Well, and I don't want to give too much away, but at some point they do pull somebody out of the audience.
Oh, yes.
And it was Andy Sheets, who we...
Yes.
He's married to the producer of the show, and so because this was opening night, it was probably that they were trying to find someone affable. I don't know that he knew about it.
He was into it.
He was into it,
He
but
loved it.
I don't think he was prepared ahead of time. I think he was a little shocked when they pulled him on stage.
He was going for it. I could see him.
Yeah.
He was enjoying himself.
Well, Andy's the nicest guy, and he's been in a lot of shows lately. He was not a theater guy, but he just started participating because his wife and daughter had been doing shows. So he would show up, and he was always a guy in the background. If they needed a guy to be serving drinks to the main characters, he would show up and serve them drinks, or he'd be the captain of the boat or whatever, who didn't have any lines but had a good hat.
He was in Mamma Mia.
He was in Mamma Mia.
I remember that.
Yeah. No, he's been in a lot of shows as guy in the background who just enjoys being on stage.
And now he's guy in foreground. And
still
with no lines. But he was definitely in the foreground.
I don't know if he knew he was going to be in the foreground, but it was a lot of fun.
You see, you gotta sow the soil. You gotta be ready, and then your moment will strike.
That's right.
Right. Luck is preparation. Luck is what the unprepared call preparation.
Yes.
No, I gotta edit that out. Luck is what the prepared. God, never mind. I'm still sick, folks. I'm still not at 100% capacity.
No, talking about Andy, it does bring up the fact that we do have a theater community that has a place for everybody. You don't have to be a great singer. You don't have to have a great voice. You can participate in theater and be part of this community. We talk about a lot of people on here that are working in the theater, that are working around the theater, and we all know each other and we're all friends. We've got a good place to go, and we can meet up with our friends down at the theater.
All of our girls did have good voices, though. And I don't think we've mentioned the girls yet.
Yes.
It was Rachel Powers.
Yes.
It was Mary Beth Brisky. It was Skyler Gingrich. And it was Sarah Smeller. It was a small cast. I've acted with all these women. They are all wonderful women, and they did a great job.
There was only 4 people outside of Andy Sheets who got brought out. There was only 4 people in the entire show.
Yes, they were on stage the entire time, which if you're a performer, you know is extremely stressful.
Yes.
Where you never get a moment to go back and take a drink of water, like check your script, settle down, rejigger, get ready for the next thing. They were on stage the entire time, both acts, which is very difficult.
Mm-hmm. No, we Sarah Smeller, who has, I think this is the largest role she's had, at least since she's come back to town. She's been in several shows. She was with us in Gentleman's Guide, I believe.
She was, and she was in Mamma Mia too.
Yes.
And she carols with us in Leavenworth.
I did not know that.
Yeah, she's great.
Okay.
Her and her husband are both very musically intelligent.
Yes.
They know all the terms and whatnot. So she has actually led the choral group a couple of times.
I think Matt was in All Is Calm.
Matt also sometimes carols if he's not being in All Is Calm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Matt has been in All Is Calm, I think, both times.
Oh, okay. No, Sarah was great, and I think she was singing an alto most of the time through this one. She had some great songs in the second act. It kind of focused a little bit more on her, but she played the ditzy comic character, probably the most comic character, and had several bits with chewing gum, which seemed to be her thing, especially during the first act. And I also haven't seen her in such a heavy comic role. And I talked to her afterwards, and this is Maddy Atwood is the director of this show, and we'll talk about Maddy. But I could tell, and I talked to Sarah about it, that she'd been working with Maddy, and Maddy had specific notes to make sure all of the comic bits popped.
Maddy is very funny, right? That's Maddy's background.
Yes.
So you would expect that would be something close to her heart.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Now, Skyler was also singing alto. She was one of the lower voices out there, and very big and very funny with her movements and just what she was doing on stage.
She was arch enemies with Rachel.
She was, but much more sympathetic than Rachel.
Rachel kind of played a nasty character.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I talked to her about that I don't think I've ever seen Rachel play someone who wasn't completely sympathetic.
No, Rachel generally plays ingenues or whatnot. She's, like Ernest always plays, like dad type figures, very warm characters. Rachel plays ingenues or like very oppressed women, very put upon women, who you are rooting for in A Little Night Music. She was put upon by me.
And that's a role you generally play.
Yeah, I'm the put upon her, the putter upon, the tyrant, the oppressor.
Yeah.
But no, Rachel was great as the wicked woman. It's a different cultural thing that I guess they would tolerate men doing this kind of thing. That was like expected. Stepping out on them.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's like Rachel's crime in the show. Right?
Well, and I don't think it was the men stepping out on them. The men seemed to be just objects off in the distance because there were no men in the show.
Yeah.
And so the women could just steal men back and forth however they felt.
Back in the day before all this like dating stuff got ritualized and whatnot, regularized, that was the affair. That you were either single or you were married.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're single, then it's all free game.
Yeah.
Right. Very different attitudes.
Well, and it's hard because they are adult women, but they were playing high schoolers.
Yeah.
And so when they're saying, I'm going with Johnny, that might have been for a week.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't really know what that means.
No.
And also, the show is so insubstantial. It doesn't really bear this level of analysis.
No,
but the 50s is an
does
interesting
not.
time because that's when all the traditional peasant cultures were like coming apart and that kind of thing. And you were getting dating and going steady and all this stuff. This stuff was kind of new back then.
Yeah, you had youth culture in the 50s, which they really didn't before.
No. Back in the day, you were a child until you got married.
Yes.
Right. And then you were an adult. And now they're looking at this new thing. It's like a capitalist angle, right? Creating this new identity. And that was happening. That was a present contemporary thing back then.
Yes.
During Back to the Future times.
So Skyler and Rachel were kind of fighting, and that was really the only contention in the show at all.
Yeah.
Was that Skyler had lost her boyfriend Johnny to Rachel.
The other two women had men that were off stage that were of uncertain loyalties.
That's right.
But they weren't fighting with other women about it. So that was like the only present conflict on stage.
That's right. And it was very funny. It was very cute. And Rachel was very much Mean Girl, which we haven't seen. And Skyler was the aggrieved girlfriend that could really act out and do really stupid things that you would see high school girls do to each other.
Classic stuff.
Our
Our second Mean Girls reference of the show.
Yeah. Good. Mean Girls.
It's a good movie.
It's a good
solid
movie.
film. Tina Fey, wonderful.
Yeah. And both of them have great voices. And Rachel was able to she had one ballad at the beginning that she stole from Skyler. And it was great. I mean, we've got some fantastic voices in this show, and Rachel completely sold it and was able to do her torch song in that show, and also led a lot of the other stuff, especially as we got into the second act.
Yeah. No, I really liked it overall. It was light, it was peppy, good energy. All the girls did a good job. It was fun.
I would like to mention Mary Beth Brisky-Deal, who I didn't realize what a fantastic operatic soprano she can do.
Mary Beth has a opera background because it came up during A Little Night Music. She was in the ensemble, and the ensemble, they sing a ton in that show, but they also sing these little interstitial songs during scene transitions, right? When a couch is coming off or coming on, they would come out and they would sing like leitmotifs. And she sang this really beautiful one in the second act when things are sort of getting put back together. We've reached the emotional finale, and now everybody's reconciling. And I remember being really struck by it. And yeah, so I don't know exactly what her operatic background is, but I know it exists. She's trained.
Well, and
she's very good.
It came out in the show that there would be times where you would be like, "Wow, okay, that," and it wasn't like it was inappropriate. There would be bits where you needed a really high soprano, and she could nail it. And then there would be other times, especially in the second act. Actually, we got into the '60s. She could really pull into the soul that you need for some of those. If you are going to be Tina Turner or Aretha Franklin, she could kill it.
Yeah, the Motown stuff.
And so I was really impressed with the range of character that she had in her voice.
Her ballad in Act 1 was also very good.
Yeah.
Again, it was mostly pop stuff, right?
Yes.
It was mostly very light. But there were a couple of ballads, and her ballad in Act 1 was exemplary.
No, really good. Maddy Atwood was the director on this one. This was her directorial debut. She's been working a lot with the Short Shakes, and she's been co-directing. She might have been directing the Short Shakespeareans at some point, but she's been around. She's an Atwood, so she's been doing theater her whole life.
No, it's great that we have a second generation of Atwoods, because Paul and Kelly do a ton for the community,
Yes.
right? And they had 3 kids, and 2 of them are going on adventures in New York right now.
That's right.
And Maddy is back home and keeping the farm going. God bless her. And she did a good job.
Yeah, no, I was really impressed with how funny the show was, and that's a lot of Maddy. She had choreographed the whole thing, and so they have choreography, again, kind of the Motown 4 people dressed the same, moving back and forth, and it was a lot. That wasn't repetitive.
Yeah.
Every song had its own movements, and they were all choreographed. It was a lot of choreography.
It was like a review. You know, it was just song.
Yes.
You know, I remember Rachel telling me that it was like over 24 songs. So like 24, 28 songs, a huge amount of songs. Normally, I mean, that is kind of a normal number for a musical. But if you're a character in a musical, if there's 24 songs, you sing in maybe 10 of them.
Yeah.
All 4 sang in all of them. Right. So just an enormous workload. Huge.
And Anna Riddell was running the orchestra on this one, and I thought it was going to be recorded. I thought they were going to be doing it off of a CD or tracks, but no, they had a full band on this one.
They had a very sexy sax.
The saxophone was great, which is something for this era in the 50s and 60s. You did have saxophone in most of the songs. You don't hear it much anymore in pop music.
You ever watch 30 Rock?
Yes.
Great show.
Tina
Fey.
Yes.
Our third Tina Fey reference of the podcast. But I always think of that, the episode where it's like there was a writer's strike and they were like, we're going to get rid of writers. And she gets inducted into the group of people whose job is no longer a thing. And one of them is the guy that plays the sexy sax solos in rock songs.
Oh, nice.
And that's what I always think of. Because back in the day, even in the 80s, you still had the big sexy sax solo, Hall & Oates or whatever.
Yes.
You still had the big wow, right? And it's just gone.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of saxophone in pop music.
It's such a sadness.
You don't have guitar solos in pop music for the most part.
They don't even have like key changes anymore in pop music. It's just gone. All the artistry is gone. The kids don't know. In my day, we had real music.
Get off.
And Hall & Oates. It was great.
You kids get off my lawn.
Private Eye. It's dynamite. It is. Listen to it. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh,
Private Eye.
No. You don't have to tell me about Daryl Hall. That man has one of the best voices. Yeah. Okay. Well, now we're feeling old. That'll be the next one.
But yeah. So no, they had a wonderful band.
Yes.
Just very noticeable that they had a saxophone player.
Yes.
Because that is unusual.
Yeah. The band was fantastic, and I was never worried about the band at all. At some point, they just kind of faded in the background, and they were so good. They played it just the way you expected it. The vocal director for this was Don McCormick, and I could tell that by far most of the rehearsals were probably music rehearsals.
Yeah, because I remember Rachel told me that they started rehearsing in like July or August, which is quite early for a fall musical, right? And I went, what? And she said, no, it's because of the musical intensity of the show.
Yes.
So they worked very hard on this.
Yeah. They did a fantastic job. It's going to be running for another 2 weeks. If you haven't seen this show, why not? And you need to go. And honestly, if you can bring someone of an older generation, if you want to bring baby boomers, I was surprised at how much they love this show. I ran into Marie Buckner at intermission, and she was taking Jane Hensel. They were smiling ear to ear and could not get over how much they loved this show because it is all the songs they grew up with. They were just ecstatic.
It was fun. It was light.
A lot of fun.
It wasn't too long. Good energy, zippy. Bop, bop, bop.
Yep. So what we've got coming up this next week, well, today, and we're recording this on a Sunday, so we're going to be going to Little Shop of Horrors out at Maskers. So we'll be covering that next week. And also, we want to really push our next opening night, which will be on Thursday at the Cashmere, I believe it's the Cashmere Middle School.
Yes, the high school performs at the middle school. And it's a Midsummer Night's Dream.
That's right, directed by Brady Dundas. This is his first show as the director at Cashmere High School. There's
been a changing of the guard at Cashmere, right? Because you interviewed Kathy. Kathy is out. God bless her. She's going on her new adventure.
Yep.
And really looking forward to it this coming Thursday.
And that is only running one weekend.
Yes.
So we'll be covering that next week, but you won't be able to see it. So I really want to encourage everybody who's listening to this podcast, get out there and see this show and support the Cashmere High School program. And Brady, who, boy, we've been working with Brady forever. I've been working with him since he was in high school.
Yeah. He was a little bit before my time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had like a whole LST era, but it was before I started working for the organization.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So we want to go out and see that show, go out and see Little Shop of Horrors, and definitely go out and see the Marvelous Wonderettes. So you've got a lot of options this week, which we did not have a couple weeks ago.
All we had was Oktoberfest.
That's right.
Oh, us poor souls.
That's right. After that, so the week after that, we're going to be going to the Rocky Horror Shadowcast.
Yes, I've been going to that for a while now. It's a lot of fun.
And that will be at the Performing Arts Center. So meet us up next week at Cashmere Middle School for Midsummer Night's Dream with Cashmere High School. And until then, enjoy your theater and go watch another opening night.